Hey everybody, Ben here from the Bonehead Podcast, and welcome to episode 120 of the Bonehead Podcast, where we talk all things Blood Bowl. Jingle. Welcome back, I'm Ben, and I'm not joined by a blood tithe Ben today. Instead, we've got our TO extraordinaire and roll-in-one specialist, Ian Triple Power Triple A. Trips, how you doing, all right?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Rolling a few more ones in life, but all good other than that.
Yes, I don't think it gets more double skulls than a flooded bathroom, to be honest with you.
That was a pretty impressive way to start my day today with, the water should not be coming down the wall.
Yeah, that's not how plumbing works. No, that's a pretty brutal way to start the day. Yeah, we got a couple of people missing from the podcast this week. Milton's had to bow out due to some stuff, and Ben is with his better half. I don't know if he wants us. He's looking at wedding venues. It's too exciting not to share. So Ben's getting himself married in a couple of years, I think, and
he's basically tasting cake all evening as opposed to talking Blood Bowl. I mean,
do you know we didn't do that? We didn't do the cake tastings in the end. We did the venue look for the first time we booked, then COVID hit, so we did the venue look for the second time. Found a really good venue, and then found out that they'd triple booked us. At which point we gave up and got some marquees, and my parents' house just did that in the end. And
best way to do it.
Well, after planning 2 weddings, it was kind of like, you know what? Let's just have a barbecue and do it Shire style. So it was very Lord of the Rings. No one was dressed up, though. It was a bit of a shame, bit of a miss. Anyway, other than life worries, Trips, what are we talking about on episode 120?
So on 120, we're going to talk about the latest Blood Bowl news, and it's really good to see that there has been some Blood Bowl news and some more detail. Catch up on Gutter Bowl and our thoughts after having played it, and what we've learned from it, and what the community's feedback is, and the usual hobby and games madness.
Exactly. So let's start with news. If you've got dwarf problems, I feel bad for you, son. So, like Tripp said, there is brand new Blood Bowl news. Not like, we've seen it previewed and all that kind of stuff. This is just like out of left field. We got a new star player reveal, and it is Ivan the Animal Death Shroud. So I'm just going to pop him on the screen at the moment. This is a star player of the skeletal variety with a gigantic batwing helmet. A gigantic batwing helmet.
Yeah. You're missing the fly special skill rule.
Yeah, this guy should have leap, or break tackle or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what do you think of the model first and foremost, Trips?
So I think the model's really nice. I suspect it's going to be a bit of a pain on the Blood Bowl pitch because it's super long. But I think the artwork's good. I like the model, and I think it's more the what else it teases has got people excited.
Oh, well, exactly. Before we delve too deeply into that, I guess one other thing to mention is that he's got claws on both of his hands. So Ivar the Animal, we've seen him before in the last edition of Blood Bowl, and he is I think he was a strength 4 dude. At least they've spoiled some of the skills and some of the rules set for him in this edition. He's got block, juggernaut, regeneration, and he's got a special ability which is Dwarven Scourge. Once per game, when an opposition player is knocked down as a result of a block action performed by Ivan, you may apply an additional +1 modifier to the armor roll or injury roll. If this is against a dwarven player from any team, this may instead be a +2 modifier. And they flagged that he's Sylvanian Spotlight and he's 190k. So we've got a dude here who's 190k. He's got at least block. He's got at least juggernaut, and he's got that once per game mighty blow ability, which I think it'll probably come in handy.
Oh, it'll definitely come in handy, but it's not an amazing set of skills for a star player. Yes, it's block. That's nice. Juggernaut is nice. Regeneration on a star player, it feels a bit meh.
Yeah, it might keep him on the pitch, I guess. And that, I mean,
Yeah,
playing against undead, you do get that element, where don't you? Where it's like, I've killed him, and he just comes back.
yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, 190 is cheaper than he was in a previous version, but he did have disturbing presence and strip ball and tackle previously. And
This is it. I mean, this is not necessarily all the skills. If he lands with, it's got block, juggernaut, regen, fine. Like you said, last edition we saw him. He had disturbing presence, strip ball, and tackle. If he's got tackle and strength 4, then actually this guy's going to be awesome as an accessory.
Like, if he had one of those 3 additional skills, he'll be like. Then instantly you go, that's handy. If he has 2 of those,
Yeah.
Buy him, paint him, get him on the team now.
I can't see them. I don't know if I can see them taking any kind of skills away from him, but at the same time, I guess maybe from a rules complexity point of view, they might remove disturbing presence.
They might, and the fact that he's cheaper as well. I mean, he's
Yeah.
40k cheaper in this version, and
All stars tend to be cheaper in this version, though, just to try and tempt them to take. I mean, if he lands with that in full kit, then I mean, I don't think he will be as popular as Cheney, but
no,
he's a good number 2 Sylvanian star for that point.
he's definitely of that. You've got, particularly if you're playing in a league game and you've got that like 200k, that 220, 230 value, which you get quite a lot. Actually, may well be a good value star for that, as opposed to the bits and pieces of inducements that you sometimes take. And we've got to say, who doesn't like a special rule that really doesn't like dwarfs? I mean, I apologize to all dwarven coaches out there, but you know who you are, and you know that you deserve this.
There's some really good feedback though from the community, which is just a case of like, love the flavor. At the moment, Blood Bowl isn't kind of set up to take rules as open as this, because they're like, what is it? Is a bull centaur a dwarf? Is Scroll half height a dwarf? Is a hobgoblin a dwarf because it's on a chaos dwarf team? And it's kind of like,
is a dwarf blocker on OWA a dwarf? Well,
exactly.
he's not really a decent dwarf. So,
quite frankly, if it's a dwarf, you will know. Bull centaur though is actually a really salient point. Like if someone's like, well, it's the OWA dwarf, does it count as a dwarf because it's not on a dwarf team? Stop gaming, go play Magic the Gathering. It's a dwarf. Like that's just offensive. But the bull centaur, because I mean, genuinely, without offending anybody, I don't know what it is.
Well, I know what it is from having played against it, and it would be annoying, difficult to remove, and a nightmare to play against, especially skilled up.
Exactly, but I don't know if it's a dwarf or a horse, so it's kind of like I don't know which one that kind of triggers us. So imagine that's going to land in the November FAQ. Can you please list all the dwarfs that are in the game? Is a hobgoblin a dwarf? Because it's on a chaos dwarf. Is a death roller a dwarf? It's like,
it does feel like we are getting star player after star player, which is giving FAQs reasons to be read.
Do you know, if it's something like this, which is, I think, really thematic, then it's kind of like, yeah, that's cool. Like, because I think, all right, you get into the rules minutiae, but as a new player or someone picking up a model and being like, yeah, I can see this one being sold in the Games Workshop store, because you know what they're like. They give like, oh, this guy's well cool, like he loves it, and if you're playing against dwarves, he actually gets +1 to the armor because he hates them, and it's like, oh, okay, I can see the story there. Like there's something quite cool about that. But I mean, most importantly of all, Drips, what does this say? What does this say to you?
Well, I think the phrase is vampires confirmed.
Yeah, we've had much less obvious vampires confirmed stuff, and I feel like we saw this with Khorne, didn't we? Because we had a Khorne star drop, and everyone was like, "Is it Chaos Dwarfs?" I say everyone. It was probably us, but it was like, "Is this Chaos
mainly
Dwarfs?"
us, but
it must be Chaos Dwarfs. Weird that they've put a Khorne star for Chaos Dwarfs, and then all of a sudden it was like, boom, Khorne team. So I mean, the obvious thing would be, oh, Sylvania's Spotlight. He's got a vampire hat. Clearly, this is vampires. I mean, it could just be Skeleton Champions, the team. I wouldn't put it past Games Workshop to do a bit of the old switcheroo.
Oh, you wouldn't. I mean, it's nice for them for the poor old undead to get a bit more variety in, because their current stars are basically
Cheney.
80k, 130, and then 250 plus for the decent ones.
Oh, I forgot about Scroll.
Yeah, well, you've got Scroll, but yeah, most people will forget about him when it comes to taking star players as well. So
I still remember that roster that Gary built with the Scroll build.
yes,
The goal of the entire day was just to try and get a long bomb with Scroll to a catch goal. That's genius.
Yeah, he was definitely created to create a roster like that. Not entirely great for long-term play, but yeah, entertaining, definitely.
Great for a tawny build. So, I mean, obviously the rumors were that Vamps were tested alongside Amazons, and we're moving towards Halloween. So I think it's fair to say that something's gone squiffy in Games Workshop land. I think maybe they were banking on Blood Bowl 3 being a roaring success, so they didn't need to drop a team at the beginning of the year. Maybe it was to do with like in-house stuff, or I mean, working for a corporation, things get repurposed, things change. So let's assume that's the case. I mean, this has got to be Vamps. And if it is Vamps, do you think this would be one of the 3 stars that we'll see in the book?
I wouldn't be surprised, because we don't seem to get extra stars out of nowhere for no purpose. They tend to end up just in books.
Almanac, or yeah. I don't think we've had a single drop release that was just a kind of like a YOLO release, was it? They've got the Almanac boys.
Yeah, it's more, the star players tend to be, you've already seen it and it's filling something out, or it's coming in a book.
Bomber was a random release, actually. I think Bomber would just landed one day and ruined Blood Bowl for a year. I'm super glad that this Undead Star is not a Bomber.
Yes,
I think that's excellent character development there from Games Workshop.
So, I like your optimism as well, that you think this is going to be tied into a Halloween release, because I feel like we've gone down that theme about the last 3 years, and it's always the week after.
2021 and 2022, and now we're back into 2023. I mean, this time last year, I was in Italy, and I was super excited because I was convinced Amazons were being released in like 2 to 3 weeks. We had to wait another 2 months. So let's assume that Vamps are spoiled in the next few weeks. They tend to drop a preview with less than a week's warning at the moment.
Yeah, so. I think, we seem to be we're definitely in ripe 40k time for GW at the moment. So they're rightly pushing that, getting all the starter boxes out, getting the detail out for that. So that's going to keep them busy. So maybe something in August, late September, early October release.
October would be good. We got Bonehead Bowl coming up at the beginning of November. So it would be very cool to see people bringing the new vampire team, if it comes out, if everyone's right about Vamps being released, and having them go straight in there and be like, it's my first game with the new vampire team, and I've taken half vampires, half chaos.
Well, you know what our players are like. It'll be half vampire, half goblins, and bomber.
Oh, Jesus. Although, I mean, as much as I think, obviously, bombs are kind of like, don't mention the war, don't mention the bombs.
Yep.
Like some kind of skeleton throwing flaming ghost heads would be like, that would be very cool.
It's very Ghost Rider-esque.
Exactly. I was thinking actually more of the League of the Extraordinary Gentlemen, where there's that bowling ball with the skull. I could see that. I mean, hey, vampires, you've got to assume that the Count is back, because he's like the big star player. And then from an undead kind of world, I was talking to Brute Fun about this the other day, like undead stars. I mean, there's a couple of like what I would say were minor stars, like Sindbad and that kind of stuff. But then otherwise, I think we're looking for a Ghoul star player. Like I can't remember who that would have been, the 2016 version, and then like the big Mummy star player,
Yeah,
which
the
you've got,
rum tut. Yeah.
which you've got to assume they'll save for Tomb Kings. So I don't know if they have Ivan, a Vampire Lord star player, because they've got to bring Luther back, and then I don't know, either like a cool ghoul or a bomby skeleton, or it probably wouldn't be vampires. Wouldn't be vampire-y, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do because, quite frankly, it feels a little bit like Desperate Measure randomness when it comes to this, and I actually quite like it. This was cool though. I was very excited to see something brand new. Models great fun, and as ever when it comes to Blood Bowl previews, it's always very exciting. The couple of weeks after, when the third parties are like, here's my take. I do like that. Although Ripper is finally available. No, he's not. No, it's only Wednesday. It's finally available to order when this podcast comes out. No, that's not true either, because this will be out Friday morning. All right, well, if you're a Patreon and you're listening to this before 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock on Friday morning, the Forge World Ripper will be available to purchase later today.
Yes. Time to remember your login and get it ordered.
Yes. And while you're on there, go and double check your Warhammer Plus memberships. Doesn't auto you.
Would that be year 2 for yourself? Then?
Yeah, it would be. I'm a bit worried about this. Like sometimes having a subscription that ticks over and you're like, oh, Sugar Plum, I've missed it again.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, like the past 4 years of my NFL subscription, my Game Pass subscription. Like, oh no, £35 gone out. I've forgotten to cancel the membership. I guess I'll just watch the Packers again. Although that will be less exciting this year, I imagine, without Rodgers. But although it might be more exciting.
You're probably less set up for being disappointed this year.
Yeah, it is a significantly lower bar. Like when I went to see the Mario movie, it's a very low bar, which made the movie quite good fun. Yeah, although I think Tiff has already said, like, babies being born in December means you can watch the late games while doing the in middle of the night feeds and stuff. I was like,
absolutely
fine with that. I get to watch more football, and
Yeah, you sleep. I'll look after the baby, and
we'll kick off time
8
for
hours
feed.
solid of gaming. Yes.
Strap the baby to myself
to go. Yeah, I can stop for a second and miss something.
Anyway, so we've got a brand new star player, and we think that this is potentially a run up to a preview, which is very, very, very exciting. Now, I think we've got a few other bits of Blood Bowl news. This one in particular, I think is actually very entertaining. So this is the Ratbots Mechanized Vermin for Fantasy Football. It's a Skaven team done in a kind of Saturday morning cartoon style, and I think it is just wonderfully, wonderfully charming. In fact, they have sent us the STLs, and over the weekend I will print this and get a Kickstarter preview up, because they got 17 days left to go. They haven't hit their goal yet, but actually it's fine. They've got until Sunday, July 30th to do this, and it is just, there's just something like, it's just beautifully charming, and everything down to the logo just makes this just, it is just like, this is the kind of rubbish toys you'd get from, like, you go like Toys R Us, and then you have the proper toys, and then you go to like JJ Bobbins toys or Poundland, and you'd be like, get this.
It feels like 80s cartoon Saturday morning, and a Blood Bowl team that do that. So this is the opportunity to paint in all of those bright colours that you never actually use, and not to use the Agrach to drown them.
Well, you had me up until that point. But no, I mean, they've got their gutter runners. They've got rocket roller skates. It is just the rat bot himself. The Roger is just like a big mech Roger. All of the line rats are just really well done. I think there's some modularity to them as well. So I am actually quite excited to print these off. They've printed the preview ones in yellow and green. So
I really do like the thrower model, the with the sort of missile launcher.
The shoulder-mounted rocket ball. It's just brilliant. Like, it's really, really, really well done. And they've gone heavy in a style, and it may not be to your liking, but this is definitely the kind of thing that's really stylized, and you can look at it and be like, do you know what? I see exactly what you were going for there, and that's really good fun. And I'm just pro. This is just made for those color shift paints that you guys have been using recently as well.
Yeah. Yeah, not a bad idea actually.
I found a tin of the Games Workshop silver primer the other day in my shed when I took out my big stash of polystyrene to build the sewer bowl board, and I was like, hey, I've got like 50 quid's worth of Games Workshop primers there, and I found lead belcher. So I actually think a bit of lead belcher and a dry brush with some shine paint over the top, some shift paint would be good. Oh, those shoes are just ridiculous. It's like Necron Skaven. This is the most blood tithe team. This is excellent. We should get him to we should all paint one, although we've got plenty of painting to do. So there's some stretch goals and bits like that, but it is £28 for the full team, 4 rats, 2 storm vermin, 4 gutter runners, 2 throwers, 4 rat ogres. He says he got a little carried away there. I think that is excellent. They've got some cool stretch goals lined up as well, but oh no. They've got an undead team in the same style. That's a bit more retro. Some of it's a little bit like 1950s Danger Will Robinson vibe. Oh, that is very cool. This is very cool. At the Dynastic Disturbers. Oh, they've gone all in on this one. This is some of this is amazing.
Yeah, there's a load of add-ons. There's this feels like the kind of Kickstarter where you pledge, and then before you know it, you're like, I appear to have ordered 4 teams.
I think you're describing me. Zoids. Do you remember Zoids strips?
Yes.
This one here has proper Zoids vibe. I love these guys. This is just like, this guy just loves Necrons and Blood Bowl. So you've got to assume that, generally speaking, he's a pretty great guy. Oh, I like this. Is really well done. This guy is just pure Zoids, and it is probably just the coloration and the fact that it's just entirely robotic. But I salute the creativity of this one. It may not be to your liking, but I think everybody can look at this and just be like, that is well done.
Yeah, and we should point out it's not an STL only team. There is a digital version and a physical version.
Oh, I missed that. I did not scroll down. Digital download of core team. What is this? So early digital download. Have I missed that? How long have we got for that? I don't know how long we've got.
There are 4 early down digitals left.
Ooh, I need to back that in a second, maybe. Physical teams, £70, 6 line rats, 2 blitzers, 4 runners, 2 throwers, and a rat ogre. That is 15 players for £70, and that's about what you'd expect to pay for Kickstarter prices. No merchandise, no
sidelines, coaches.
Yes, no extra stuff with it, which...
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's been really interesting. Obviously, we do the 3D printed teams. Most people are not that fussed by like the tokens and the balls. Every now and again, someone is like, "Does this come with it?" Otherwise, we don't really bother, because most people aren't that fussed. They don't want it, because it's like, "Hey, thanks for printing and cleaning that thing that I am now going to never use." So,
go to a tournament. Get the dice and tokens as from a tournament.
Exactly. But no, this is very cool. This is going on to the end of the month, so. The next week or so, we'll have a Kickstarter preview video up for it, and I think I might paint some up, because it just looks like a fun little side project. I really like that. I think that's great. So yeah, 17 days left on that bad boy, and some really fun shots and some really fun models. And the last bit of Blood Bowl news before we touch on Blood Bowl 3 trips is: did you see the Punga Chaos Halfling team?
I did see the Punga Chaos Half team. Love that team.
And they did the staff for that this month, and they've got some brilliant little Chaos dudes. Sadly, the most requested star player for Halflings is Deep Root, and they didn't actually produce a Deep Root. So everyone kind of was like, "Hey, it's Halflings. Where's Deep Root?" And they were like, "Oh, we'll see. And then they dropped this. So they actually went out of their way to fill the gap and drop this boy. It was released today. I've got it on the printer right now, actually. And I love it. I think it's brilliant. It's got like this orcish totem head. He's a big old tree man. I'm not entirely sure why he's on one leg, but I guess that's just because he's gonna throw a rock. It's kind of like it's just wicked. It's just a big chaos tree man that fits the team beautifully.
Yeah, really nice model. Fits with the theme beautifully, and great to see the responsiveness to the community ask, because there was lots of, "Oh, we're missing a model, we're missing a model, we're missing a model," and it's always just like, hold our sculpting tool.
Yeah. All right, we've got this. I've got to say that like it feels like the key Patreons. Brute Fun is excellent at this. Ugni's doing some great work too, and Punga, like the engagement with the community is brilliant, and I think that's the key to their success. Is that like, what is it that you guys are looking for? Because we want to produce something that you want to have, and all three of those teams, the three of those teams of companies, two of which are just individual people, are doing a phenomenal job of just delivering outrageously good releases after release. It's incredible.
Yeah, really, really great. I mean, if you have a 3D printer and you are into Blood Bowl, you are never going to be short of things to print.
Yep. And if you don't have a 3D printer, come to us, and
yes,
we will get you Blood Bowl.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's everything in the world of Blood Bowl physical releases. It's the middle of July now. Haven't seen a thing for preview, but I don't know. I got a feeling that August is going to be a very exciting month in all ways. But Trips, it's Blood Bowl 3 time. What's occurring?
Yeah, so just a brief bit of Blood Bowl 3 news this week, and it's a slight tweak to the way that the experience is being handed out for the games. So
That's the
Cyanide
player experience, isn't it?
Yeah, the player experience. Yeah, so what they've done is said that effectively they don't think progression was going fast enough through the levels for which you tick off the blood pass and the XP awards and details. And I think we did some rough maths and worked out you might have to play around 60 games in a season to do everything. So what they've done is they've increased the experience you gain from games. I think the patch went live yesterday, so Tuesday, for those listening at some point in the future. And it looks like it's about 3 times as much experience you get for a full 16
Wow.
full 16 turn game.
So we're talking. All right, let's assume you're going to get us some concessions because it's playing online against other people, right? So, what we're thinking then, like 25, 30 games to max out the pass now?
I think so. I think if it's full games, that's what it's going to be, because it seems that the experience was scaled that the longer the game went on and the more turns, the more you got. So that feels right then. So if you are playing a game, and we've touched on it, a game of Blood Bowl 3, a full length game, you're still talking an hour and a quarter. It's quite a chunk of time. It's slightly quicker than tabletop, but it is quite a chunk of time. It feels like there's a good chunk of reward for it now, and it's all that down to that balancing the grind. And what you want is that grind, there be enough grind in it that you want to do it, without there being so much that you're just like, I cannot play Blood Bowl every night for 3 months.
Oh, exactly. Like you broke it down earlier, I think, before we started recording, like 60 games across 3 months. That's 20 games a month. That's 5 games a week. If I said to you, Trips, can you play 5 games of Blood Bowl next week? You'd be like, yeah, I can move some stuff around and make that happen.
Yeah.
That's 1 week for 5 games. It's not every week.
I couldn't do it for a month, let alone 3 months.
No.
To the point, you don't want to get to the point of going, it's the last week of the season, I need to take the week off work and play Blood Bowl 3 for 24 hours.
I need to max out the pass. Yeah.
To get to that shoulder spike that I didn't really want anyway.
But a couple of games a week. I feel like that's achievable for your regular Blood Bowl player, and I think that's going to potentially tick up from like playing. I can't be bothered to play Blood Bowl 3 to be like, oh, I'll play a game, and then you see your thing, and you're
Yeah.
like, you know what, I'll play a couple more games this week, and then actually you'll probably organically get to 2 or 3. You'll get to like 2 or 3 Blood Bowl 3 sessions throughout your week, which is probably 3 or 4 games.
Yeah. I'd like it to be in that space of it's something that I will play a bit during the week.
Yeah.
But I won't play it so much that I will get to the point where I go, I'm not playing it again now for 6 months.
Yeah.
and I want to be, I mean, I don't want it to take up my painting time. I don't want to
Yeah.
take it be the only game I play. So that it's got to be in that nice balance section.
Yeah, quite frankly, it's not good enough to play 60 games a month of at the moment. But 15, 20, yeah, well, a month, over a quarter. But definitely, I honestly, I think the biggest thing is when the local league stuff gets on, then I think you'll see a steady increase in being able to do it, because it gives you that different level of buy-in instead of just like playing randoms online. You get like I don't know, it's proper Blood Bowl, isn't it, when you're playing in a league?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, you'll naturally play more games, I think, at that stage. And we will definitely be doing some kind of league. We will maintain an open ladder for people to play. It's notable the Discord around Blood Bowl 3 is a little bit more active than it was.
That's good.
So people are definitely in there playing. You and I have both been on and played. So yeah, it's a good game. It's fun. It's not the only way to play Blood Bowl, and you do not have to now play it for the best part of half a day a week.
I think you've made a good point there. I think in the hierarchy of, I think it does fall a little bit below hobby at the moment. For me, anyway. I don't know. Like, if I've got an hour and a half, I don't know, maybe I'll paint a team or start painting a team instead of playing a game against a random who may quit after 4 turns. But what you're saying there is you get the league up and running, and then you kind of like, oh, I'm excited for this because this has meaning. Like, this has meaning, and I know I'm probably going to have a good game here, and there's going to be a story about it in the Discord afterwards. When that starts to happen, that's when I think Blood Bowl 3 is going to get like a really good thing for us all to have. Instead of now, it's a good training tool to play online, maybe with slightly wonky rules. But when it starts becoming its own story, then I think that's going to be absolutely brilliant. All right, so that's good. So we got Games Workshop doing some stuff. We got third parties still doing some brilliant stuff, and we got Blood Bowl 3 sort of starting to take shape. It was a bit of a lackluster first quarter and second quarter. But I think, well, actually, to be fair to the third parties, this has been the best ever year for Blood Bowl.
Yeah.
And it's only July.
But it does feel like all of a sudden we do need to check Warhammer Community every once in a while, as opposed to go, I can just skim read a whole week's worth of articles and go, no. Actually, no.
I got 3 screens. I've got main work screen, other work screen, and then the left-hand side has got you guys on the WhatsApp, Warhammer Community, and YouTube. Like, that's the fun window. And I was like, I'm in meetings, I'll just bounce over to Warhammer Community, press F5, and be like, oh, it's another epic article that says exactly the same as the other 4 epic articles, which is nothing. Except here's some...
Just confirms everything that everyone's like, I figured that one out. But thanks for
is going to take place at a small scale, and it's got Space Marines. You're like, yeah. There's a picture, and there's Titans. I'm like, yeah, it's in the picture. Just like, what is the gameplay like? And they're like, there's loads of little men. Like, okay. Please just tell me how the game works. But maybe next week. But anyway, we're rambling now. I think we touch base on hobby, and then we talk about the other big news at the moment, which is Gutter Bowl. Okay, so hobby, games played, things purchased, things printed, Mr. Triplo. Take us away with your pick.
So I did print all of my draft team. I think I did that for the last episode, and I've now painted all the bases, and I was very happy to try some color shift paints with that.
Brilliant.
So I did some color shift paints, and under no basis is that a cheap way to get to a reroll for our draft. So
Yeah,
they are now
purple.
all, yeah, they are now all based, assembled, and primed. So now they just need the rest of the paint putting on them. So of course, in true hobby style, I flitted to something else and printed a cat gang for 5 parsecs. And then I got very distracted this week by going, well, if you're going to have a crew for a spaceship, you should probably have a spaceship for them to come out of. And I've printed probably a foot-long spaceship that comes in about 6 parts, which is sitting on my hobby desk at the moment, looking at me going, look like an exploded spaceship. I need gluing together.
I love how much we are kindred spirits on the podcast here, because it is very much a case of like, cool, right, I'll start this project. I need to finish that project. So,
Yeah.
do you know what I could do while I'm doing that is a completely other massive project.
I think I have 4 ongoing projects on my desk at the moment, and it would be 5, but I tidied one away because I knew I'm not getting back to it for a while. I was like, it's going in the cupboard for a while.
That is very good project maintenance, that is. I end up having to do the same as well. Although my big hobby thing this month, well, this last week, was building the
Ooh.
sewer bowl pitch, which for YouTubers is on the screen behind us. For people listening on the podcast, go watch our Gutter Bowl live stream.
Go watch it. And I've got to say, Ben, it was an awesome pitch to see and play on. It was, considering it went from being what about, to ta-da.
Yeah, I bend all over
Hat
this
off.
one.
Yeah.
I was like, no, we're gonna do this. We're gonna have a pitch, and I like obviously the size of the pitch in the end was not what we thought. It was not what I thought. I genuinely thought this was going to be an 11 sized pitch with 11's width, 7th length. So I printed all the little tiles, and I've been working on the sewer box bits because we saw it in the picture. But until that it wasn't Saturday morning. It was Friday night at 11 p.m. The pre-orders went live on the New Zealand website. So I loitered, had a look at the preview, saw the picture of the pitch, and immediately chucked on 2 more prints on the S2. I was like, right, I need more of these stuff. But because the S2 is wicked, and like the way these things, it's 22 2x2 tiles on each print. So 3 prints of the tiles, and then each of the sewer bits was 1 print as well. The chonky print, 14 hours. Which is still nerving when you're just like, right, well, let's just hope this works. So that was a weekend. Chucked it on the Friday night for the sewer thing. Took it out Saturday afternoon. Chucked another one on Sunday morning. Woke up and everything was printed. And yeah, I just chucked it together. There's some gaps, and if you watch the game, you'll see I tried to do some cool stuff with lighting and just didn't fill in the gaps. So there's some dodgy glow bits. But,
see, you say that, but I think it really worked because I think it brought the whole sort of sewer gutter atmosphere in, because I think we said it during the live stream. I can't remember looking at a sewer going, this looks nice and all filled in and detailed and somewhere I'd like to live.
There are some bits where the glow, I think, like on this grill, that it worked perfectly.
Oh yeah,
I think it just
and I love the middle bit, the line of scrimmage with like the death gap to fall down into.
The little trench up the middle. It was great fun to build. I love it. This is something I'm actually committed to doing with all the little hobby projects that we're kind of going on now. So if the next team to come out is vampires, if it's Tomb Kings, whatever, I hope that we get enough lead time, which, judging by the way they do the pre-orders, we should have, to have a wicked 3D pitch of that theme ready for us to live stream games the second that the roster comes out, so that we can really just, I don't know, just have a great time doing hobby bits that, I don't know, we probably wouldn't otherwise get a chance to do. And I don't know. It's just, I think it's pretty cool. Now we've got a wicked 3D pitch that we can bring to tournaments, or that we can just play some more Gutter Bowl of when we get the studio up and running in the next couple of months.
And it is one of those games, we'll touch on it when we go through the game, but it is one, because it's got effectively terrain, a physical board with the depth and the height for it really brings the game to life. It is a bit like Dungeon Bowl with that. They're actually, the cardboard cards are one thing, but if you can make a board for this, you will get more value out of the game.
Yeah, I think yeah. What I should have done is not glued the barricades on. I could probably just should have magnetized those and then just created lids for each of the sewer pits, because then it would just be a standard 11s pitch. Actually, no reason I can't now do that and make this a standard 11s pitch for when we start filming the Bonehead Championship later this year. If we do, which I'm hoping we do, but we might not. It depends. There you go. I think that's your hand there modelling the
yes,
the line of sewage as it is. So yeah, my big hobby thing was that. I've got my tavern draft team all printed as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, all printed. But we got like 4 weeks till that, so loads of time to paint that.
Well, in your traditional painting style, that would be at least 3 Fridays, which is at least 6 teams for you.
I am a changed man. I've got so much going on that I'm trying to get ahead these days. That said, you're probably right.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the podcast we do the week before the draft, I would imagine none of us will be going up, done, all sorted, not a single model needing to be painted.
That's 2 weeks' time. We'll be recording that one on the 26th, and on the 25th, I've got the Games of Armada at club to play. So
you've got to paint 4 naval fleets.
4 fleets to paint up then, and then I'll do the tavern team. It gives you loads of time. Anyway, other than the awesome Gutter Bowl game that you played on Line Trips, have you got any games in recently?
So games in, had a really good Blood Bowl 3 game. Played with Dark Elves versus OWA. Always like playing against OWA.
Yeah,
I feel the pain of the opposing coach, particularly when it's pouring with rain and they can't pick the ball up for love nor money. So despite managing to continue my spectacular rolling of 1 and just going, all I need to do is dodge. Oh no, can't dodge with the Dark Elf for love nor money. And I think I spent most of the second half with less than 7 players. I managed to sneak out a 1-0, scoring a defensive touchdown as well. So
that is superb, Trips, and very, very, very you.
Yes, and got block as a random skill on a lineman, so all was forgiven.
I was going to say, that's not bad either. That's not bad at all. I've got no games of Blood Bowl in. Things are very busy in Benland at the moment. I mean, building a pitch was probably a insanely stupid idea, and then I thought, well, you know what?
Stream the game as well, so that was a whole other evening out, and probably another one editing it.
The lights was probably a really stupid idea as well, but it was worth doing. But I did manage to partake in a Magic the Gathering draft yesterday. I'm gutted you couldn't make it, Trips, because it was great fun. I love a draft. I haven't really been able to go to club regularly recently. Tuesdays have turned into like a really busy meeting day, and you know what, an hour-long meeting takes an hour and 5. So your Tuesday tends to become a very long and exhausting day. So I've not been signing up, except I played Moonstone the other month, and that made me realise that if I plan a specific reason for something, I won't let stuff get in the way.
You're goal orientated.
So we planned this draft, and it took a lot of work to get our gaming group to kind of sign up to it. Then we realised that actually one person hadn't signed up to it. Not going to call Ian Warhammer out here or anything, but we did a little doddle thing, and yeah, we ended up playing a draft, and it was brilliant. We started with 7. Unfortunately, your work and Saxby couldn't make it in the end either, so it went down to 5. So it was only a 5-man pod, but it was brilliant fun. I drafted red black amass basically, so I just had a bunch of spells that just kept spawning an orc army to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and I had a great combo spell that amassed my orc army. Then my orc army punched another guy, so it was filth. It was just like, and now he's a 7/7, and I use that 7/7 to punch your guy, and then I walk in and murder you. So I had a wonderful time. I went 3-0 last night. It was just so good to just zonk out and play some games. And I think it's just really, really reiterating, because I know I said to you on Monday and Tuesday how like I'd kind of woken up and I was just so miserable and undriven by anything. But going out and playing a game, I felt great today. Felt great. It was
Excellent.
awesome. It was awesome to go and play a game. And now I'm really excited, because one of my goals this year was to get Armada, get some test games, so that when we got the studio up and running, we can play some Armada on Channel 2. And actually, having 4 painted fleets, I feel like it's a really solid start to that. If they're not finished, it doesn't matter, because we're just going to all get together in a couple of Tuesdays' time at the club and just play some games of Armada and see what it's like. And I've got myself a goal. Everything is printed. So at the moment, if I don't do anything else, we can still play the game. It's just nice to also have a bit of a palate cleanse, because I really do genuinely think we're going to hit a Blood Bowl hot run soon.
And it does feel like, I don't know, and for other players, and do tell us what it's like, but it does feel like you need a bit of a gaming palate cleanser every once in a while. And our gaming group is wonderful for that, because there are more than enough people who can be led astray by a new game, a new rule set, or something shiny printed to play with. So it's always an opportunity to do something different and just have a good fun evening. And if it's just a one-off evening, and people, you'll have half the group go, yeah, I'd like to do that again, and half go, yeah, I'm glad I've tried it without buying the box set.
Well, this was interesting, because we did the Magic the Gathering the draft yesterday, and everyone was like, oh, we should do this again sometime. But everyone acknowledged that, like, we're talking once a quarter, like and it's kind of like, you know what, actually having one good game session of a game every few months it can be enough, and it can be a special little spectacle. Now, Blood Bowl is like, when it's chundering along in a league and you've got this build up, it is just its own special thing that I don't think anything short of playing a proper D&D campaign could ever give you. That's what's beautiful about Blood Bowl. But we're in the off season at the moment, before the winter season begins, and it's just this kind of, like you said, Trips, a nice time to just do something different, have a dabble with something else, if you want to. And then when the Blood Bowl season kicks up again, it's going to be a case of, right, ready for this, like, let's go. And I know I'm going to be like, oh, really, really looking forward to the next league. But it's, I don't know, like you said, like doing a spectacle game, doing something together as a team it's just pretty cool. And actually, sometimes just having a demo game where there's no strings attached it's brilliant. Like, when I turned up to play Moonstone, I brought nothing with me except snacks, and then I left with nothing, and it was just awesome. And I don't know, I'm looking forward to being the boat guy who can just be like, come on, turn up, let's play a couple of games of cannons.
And it's really nice for if you've got a group of friends you play with, that someone will always have another game that they want to play and give it a go. So it's great for them to get it out, and it's an excuse to do it. And you may stumble across a game that, you know, before you know it, you're like, I appear to have ordered some stuff.
Yeah, and that's actually really fun as well, because, you know, going down that rabbit hole of something different, it can be really exciting, even if it's only short-lived. But, you know, I'm going to get these Mantic Armada games going, and quite frankly, I don't care if nobody else in the group is like, oh yeah, I want to pick up a fleet and play. I don't mind, as long as someone's like, yeah, I'd play that again with you sometime. I could be like, great, you know what, a couple of months time, I fancy a game of Armada. I've got the fleets. Like, let's have a laugh and do that. And I feel like I'm getting that vibe with you and your Parsec stuff. It's just a case of, it's kind of like an occasional change.
I feel like it's going to be the thing that I'm going to do every once in a while. I'm going to play a game, and also because of the way that it works, where you are playing against effectively a different set of miniatures every time. It's driving me to go, well, I'm not going to print and and new miniatures, but I had a whole shelf full of miniatures that could be used for something else.
Yeah.
So some of the unpainted ones will get some paint just to be played for.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Any other hobby highlight strips?
I think nothing else at the moment. Yeah, I think that was everything.
I have one thing to mention, which is they did a little Necromunda rulebook update today on the Warhammer community.
Yes.
And first of all, looks like they've awfully robbed the Blood Bowl getting a secondary skill thing, because they're saying it costs you 12 experience points and you can choose a secondary skill. And I'm like, I've done this. I've done it. I'm going to put two heads on my Goliath.
I was like, I was in a meeting all day, came out and saw that, and I was like, is that like some weird like joke going around the group? And I was like, oh my god, no, it's actually a genuinely thing. Yeah.
So they're just compiling all the Necromunda stuff, and I've got to be honest with you, it's one of the things that kind of not necessarily puts me off Necromunda, but is a very kind of like a got to be aware that you kind of got to be Giles from Buffy to have access to enough books, or you Trips when you've got like two Kallax holes full of Necromunda books. And actually the fact they've come out and they're just putting it all together in one big tome, it's going to cost like 30 quid, but that makes that leap off point so much better.
It's such a good idea. Really great to hear. I'm really excited to see the lasting injury table. So it's a part back to the 95 edition version of it. And that used to bring a real flavor to it. You'd end up with some really weird injuries, but it would add to the story. And for me, that's what Necromunda always is. It's a bit like Blood Bowl, where you learn to love and have a thing about your gang, and they mean something to you right until the point that someone falls off a high building into a sewer pit.
Do you know what? Blood Bowl is like watching your favorite NFL team develop. Necromunda is like watching The Walking Dead.
Yes.
Like everybody gets a bit cooler and then they die. And I think Necromunda is very much that vibe. And it's on my to-do list for this year. So it's Armada for August, and then Slum Hives of September if we don't get a Blood Bowl team, or if Epic doesn't drop. Or if both those things do, I'm in trouble, because should be completing the house potentially next week. Could be.
That's got to be the biggest and exciting hobby news of the war.
This is phenomenal. So on the one hand, that is awesome. They're looking to complete. They kind of sort of said, look, we'll look to exchange end of this week if we can, and then you can complete early next week. So I'm hoping that this time next week I will have the keys to the house. Now, what it does mean is that I'm not going to risk going to Nottingham for those 3 days, because I need to every opportunity to get this house straight up, ready for the baby. Kind of needs to be.
You need to unbox your life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a channel point of view, like, I am very confident in my abilities and Tiff's abilities and Tiff's family's abilities to make sure the house is all right for the baby to land. But I got to get the house good, so that we can build the studio good, ready for the end of the year and then the baby holiday period. Because if I dally, that shed, the studio is not landing this year, and that would just be not. Obviously Tiff and the house are the most important things in the world to me, but hobby goal number one is getting that house right, so we can build the big old 14 by 10 shed in the back of the garden, get it powered up, get it studioed up, and then we've got all the Blood Bowl we want without having to upset my wife, because I've just taken up the entire dining room and lounge with all my camera equipment, and then having to take it down again.
We did ask her if she wanted to join the Gutter Bowl stream, but I think she was more like, you're kicking me off the sofa and away from the TV.
Yeah, and that's why I bought that Disney Princess magazine when I went to the shops, and she was like, oh, get me a treat. And I was like, okay. So I grabbed the Disney Princess magazine and some chocolate and some Magnums, because I figured that would actually appease her. Anyway, did your daughter like the Disney magazine?
Mine's also loved the Disney Princess magazine. Thank you very much to Tiff.
Tiff was like, oh no, Trips, you've got a daughter, she likes Disney.
Oh yeah, that gave me super dad points for ages. It was like,
Ah, amazing. Right, I think it is time to talk about Gutter Bowl. Okay, so Gutter Bowl was the release that no one expected. I think is probably fair to say. No one expected it, and then when it was dropped, everyone kind of decided what it was going to be, and I think most people decided that it was going to be. There was Blood Bowl 7s, and Games Workshop then brought out Blood Bowl 7s. There was Dungeon Bowl, and Games Workshop then brought out Dungeon Bowl. And there was Street Bowl. And we thought, Gutter Bowl, it's kind of just going to be Street Bowl, isn't it? Well, actually, it takes place in a street on one half of the pitch, but otherwise, no. It was completely different. So Gutter Bowl, brand new expansion. It is a book and a board in one set. The pitch is 11 size in every way, but it's got terrain, and on the back of the screen here we've got our game from the other night, which we live streamed, and you've got 4 patches of terrain, you've got 4 barricades, you've got 7 players on the pitch. The rosters are 750. The roster videos for that will be going live. They're probably, a couple of them have already started to be live before this podcast has gone out. I'm doing it in alphabetical order, which is quite interesting. It's keeping me focused. And the Amazon one may surprise you. But yeah, so it's just a very different thing to what we were expecting. You've got terrain. It's 7s but more cash. You've got no fouling rules where you can foul but you can't get sent off for fouling. If you've got a secret weapon, you only get sent off on a 4+ at the end of the drive. Well, you roll a 4+, and if you roll a 4+, you're okay. Otherwise, you get sent off at the end of a drive. So your chainsaws, your death rollers may stick around. It makes it all more interesting. You've got walls on either side of the pitch. The crowd is there at the end zones. It is monstrously thematic and just brutally bloody.
Yeah, it is not a game to play if you want to see most of your players alive at the end of it. It is not a subtle game, and it is definitely the sort of the child of Dungeon Bowl and Blood Bowl 7s that we didn't know that we wanted, but we're really going to enjoy playing.
I mean, yeah. So, given all that in mind, we jumped on, we built a pitch, we did a live stream. Hopefully, you've watched it. If you haven't watched it, it's a good laugh. Go and watch it. You'll get to grips very quickly with the whole Gutter Bowl vibe. Now, let's talk about the actual release itself. So, the release is essentially a Spike magazine and a pitch together in a box for a little over £30. I feel like a pitch is normally about £30, so that price wise, that was better than I expected it to be.
I think it was at the lower end of what we all guessed. I think Milton got it bang on. So Milton is 1 for 1 with predictions, and therefore
known for his optimism as well, Milton. So that was
yeah. But it's right in that sweet spot of it's accessible and easy to buy for the price it was easy to buy.
Now, on the flip side of that, unfortunately, it is sold out absolutely everywhere. Like, local gaming shops don't really have them. Sold out very quickly. Couldn't even get some extra copies in. And Games Workshop says it's temporarily out of stock. So hopefully they'll bring it back in.
As of tonight, it is back in stock
on Games Workshop.
On Games Workshop.
That's
on their website.
Brilliant news, because it was temporarily out of stock this week. That's fantastic. All right, that means it's back. That means it is worth. Because I'm going to be honest with you, if Games Workshop drop a release that turns out to be limited stock, I never bother doing an unboxing for it. It's because Guerrilla Miniatures Games, I love everything that Ash does, but a couple of times he's been sent stuff by Games Workshop. He's filmed the unboxing and everything, and then by the time he's gone live with it, it's gone. It's sold.
Gone, yeah.
And he's brilliant. He's in the comments, and he's like, "I'm really sorry. Like, I'm really sorry. Like, I don't know. These things are just going to be limited releases, and they're completely flipping gone. So I'm glad that's coming back. But my point was going to be, because of the layout of this pitch, because of the size of this pitch, you can just grab a Blood Bowl 11's pitch, flip it over, and with the elegant application of a Sharpie, you can have a sewer bowl pitch on one side of your 11's pitch with an incredibly low amount of effort, and you will have the layout there to play this version of Blood Bowl basically for free, assuming you have a Sharpie. And if you don't, find someone like Trips who always has a spare. I mean, Dungeon Bowl, I love Dungeon Bowl, but honestly, it was probably easier to build the pitches than it is to make or carry around like the set. I mean, this is why we ended up doing the posters for Dorset Dungeon Bowl, is because you roll out the poster.
Dungeon Bowl, you need the box set, you need the cards, or you need a mat or building it, because there is no other way of playing it. And the only other way you can do it is if you happen to fortunately be a D&D player that has scaled everything up to 32 mil and has lots of it lying around.
That is a massive caveat as well, because even though it's not a massive scale jump, geez, a 25 mil dungeon is small. Rick gave us his last year. He has got a stack of it. He was like, here, use this for the channel or sell it on. I was like, oh my god, dungeon, this is amazing. And it's just so small. And when you scale things up to 34 mil square size, it gets not small very, very quickly if you're building out a full dungeon. But a Blood Bowl 11's pitch fits on a 3x2. That is a very reasonable board size if you want to make a 3D pitch. But the fact is, you don't need it. If you can't get hold of this because it's out of stock in your friendly local gaming store, you can easily, with a pen, make one. The same way you can with a 7's pitch. Or you can cut out bits of card to represent the terrain areas, or you can go full hog and build your own. And I mean, it's a pretty fun project.
Yeah, I would fully recommend it, and we touched on it earlier, but that 3D nature of it will really aid to the thematic feel of the game. Because those sewer pits or those market stalls are not just there to look good or nasty. They are genuinely going to completely change the way you play the game.
So let's start with that. There's a line of scrimmage. You got 7 players. It is a long pitch. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Trips, you're playing against Ben. You're constantly in there. Tell me how much thought you're giving to the sewer pits. And we're going to use the sewer pits as the example here because it is we got the sewer pitch, but actually the market stalls are very similar in nature. The market stalls, you punch people into them like they're walls, whereas the sewer pitch, you punch people into them and they have to kind of swim their way out. But it's the same kind of thing. You're playing around that terrain element. How much are you thinking about that when you're playing, and how big an impact does that have?
It makes a massive impact because effectively it makes the game feel like it's got 3 corridors in each pitch half, but the corridor can severely impact you in terms of you can get pushed into it, but particularly if you do not have a team blessed with agility or movement, you really got to think about your positioning carefully, because you could be out of position really quickly, because it is a big pitch to cover. It is a normal 11's pitch and you only have 7 players. So straight off, and with a line of scrimmage, straight off, you've got 3 players on the line of scrimmage. You've got 4 players to cover the whole of the rest of the pitch.
And only 6 turns to score. And even though rerolls are cheaper than 7's for the most part, because they're a bog standard 100k, I think we've discovered that actually having 9 players is like 9 is comfortable. 7 is a bad idea. 7 is a very bad idea.
Yeah, without a doubt, the biggest single difference between Blood Bowl or 7's or Dungeon Bowl is the mighty blow of the ground. So you have a player go down, the ground has mighty blow. So
only for armor, as we double checked.
Only for armor,
but that's all we checked. That's all you
need.
Because if you stun a guy, in a 6-turn game, that's a third of the game they're out.
Yeah.
That soft removal in 11s is, oh man, it's a death knell in a sevens format like this one.
And it's snow, and because there is that line of scrimmage, you have a line of slaughter to start off with, and actually, that's going to make a big difference because you can snowball down numbers and be outnumbered very quickly. If you have a bad first turn, you could find yourself down to 3 or 4 players before you really know what you're doing.
And I think a really, really salient point there is that you say, you've got 3 guys on the line of scrimmage, which means you've got 4 in the backfield. That's if you've got 7. You drop a guy, then you've only got 3, maybe 2 or 3 guys in the backfield. And like you said, Trips, it's an 11s pitch deep. Sure, having the terrain will keep the ball focused into some areas, but actually with the terrain, it means you've got to go all the way around to get the ball. So in some cases, that ball is going to be even further away. And I guess there's 2 takeaways from that. Is one, you need to get a hustle on. And the second thing is that I think on the ball, if you've got an integral player with on the ball, so lizards and Amazons, I think it's absolutely massive. That extra 3 squares is just huge on when
grab
you're
that
receiving.
free movement and take it. Yeah.
I think it just absolutely doubles in value. So it's a long way to score if that ball ends up deep. And I mean, 6 turns at movement 4 is 24 squares. So you've got
movement Black Orc.
Exactly. So that is obviously at the low end of it. I mean, a lot of teams, the ball's going to end up kind of midfield, which is going to put you at about 20 squares. Let's assume you're going to have to dodge around a guy or cut a corner somewhere. So 20 squares. So movement 6 is 4 turns without taking some dodgy risks. So
that's where the sewers and the barricades come in, because you are really starting to instantly trade that decision of going in normal Blood Bowl. It's pretty much, it's however many squares you are away from the end zone, that's how many you've got to do. Going sideways in Gutter Bowl is not something that you choose to do. It's something that you have to do, or you have to take the very bad risks that go with trying to cut corners.
You're exactly right. And the thing I absolutely love about this, because we did something like this a long time ago. Back in episode 2 or 3, we looked at what we call Tunnel Bowl, which was playing an 11s pitch with terrain. We made a couple. I made one with holes in that looked very similar in layout and design to this, which is actually quite interesting. And it was awesome because you start creating running lanes and corridors, and then you've got 7 open squares in the backfield. But like you said, Trips, you've got 3 lanes. It's kind of like League of Legends at this point. And I think it's so good. I think you called it out. It feels like Dungeon Bowl without having to build the dungeon, with it being mirrored, and actually just having less overhead. And in that regard, I think it's absolutely brilliant for that.
Yeah, it's it does have very much that Dungeon Bowl feel, but with the line of slaughter and with those just the 7 players, and you're like, oh, it'll be fine, they'll come back again. Yeah, you'll be lucky if you've got 7 left on the pitch.
Yeah. So the ground and the line of slaughter just means that you are going to be taking losses on both sides, which is good. It keeps the playing time down a little bit. But it just gives such a visceral, risky feel. I think in one of the early reads on the Warhammer community, it was like, if your players survive, maybe they can make it to the big leagues. And we were all like, yeah, all right, we read this all the time. Then we played games of this, and you're like, oh, you actually mean if they survive.
It's not even you gained an SPP and therefore you'd be good enough to get up. You'd be like, no, actually, you still get to play in game 2.
This is like you are going over the top and into a brawl, and I love it because you kind of go into it knowing you've got to go into it knowing that this is a fight as opposed to football, like way more
Yeah.
than the other variants, and it's done that brilliantly. And the thing I really love is from a thematic point. I know the ground is spiky, but I think it really just represents that these players do not have kit.
Yes.
They're just in board shorts or whatever they were wearing at the pub, and they are playing, and without pads, without helmets, they don't have that armor value. And it's a brilliant way of basically adjusting everybody's armor value without having to adjust anybody's armor value. And I think that is just so brilliant. And it feels like everybody is just a bit of a rubbish version of what they would normally be.
Yeah. And for those of you used to playing with a high armor team, suddenly having every armor roll having that +1 or +2 if someone has Mighty Blow,
Woo-hoo.
yeah, it suddenly starts to get to the point where you're like, I am not used to losing all of my Black Hawks. When you're like, hang on, armor 10 is not armor enough.
Armor 10 becomes armor 8 against a rat ogre
Yeah.
punching you into the ground. And an armor 8 break is what, 44% of the time. So if that rat ogre is knocking a guy down every turn, you're losing 3 orcs a half, which is basically the kind of what
Yeah.
and that's half your team, like, at this point. So it is very different, and I think it's really good. Now, before we kind of delve deeper into like some of the anathema of it, how often do you think you'd want to play this variant?
So I think it feels a bit like playing Dungeon Bowl, that you want to play it a couple of times a sort of year as a maybe in between league, or the kind of thing you play while the rest of your league's in the playoffs if you haven't made them. I'm not sure I'd want to play a full league. I'm not sure that. I mean, you just play you playing journeyman versus journeyman in probably game 2 onwards.
I have a massive thought about this. So, it's right. I love that the league rules in this are basically standard SPP advancements. Like, that's great. You've got like this whole like maybe they get picked by the big leagues thing. Thematic, love it. But I don't think he will finish a league for this game. Because even if you start out with a 9-man roster, you lose a couple, you end up playing your next game with 7 players. You're going to finish that game with 4. You are going to go into the next match with 6 and a journeyman, which means you are starting game 3 at 7 players. You are going to finish that game with 3 or 4. You may be able to buy another guy, but it doesn't matter because you're going to end up with 7 players. And I just think it's going to be, I just think it is too murderous to be able to play a full league of without some kind of topping up your roster thing.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to do that would be to just let you redraft a new team in between every single game. You can keep a player if they've got some SPP or something, but otherwise, because the way the whole thing is set up, which is a case of like, right, who's at the pub? Let's grab a little team. Well, actually, if you take a Gutter Bowl team and you try out some players and one guy levels up, a few other die, well, next one, we'll keep those 2 players, but this time I'm going to run the troll because it's at the pub. And you've got that 0 to 5 positionals. And I think that's probably the better way to do it so that you get that escalation bit of developing some key players while rotating irregulars in, and also the fact that in the bottom leagues, the one thing you absolutely do have is a whole bunch of dudes willing to play. And I think that going into like game 2 or game 3 and I've only got 7 and my whole pub no one else is volunteering to play, I don't know if that lines up.
Yeah. What about if because I think you will see a lot of journeymen with this, so maybe if there was like something similar to the getting drafted by the big leagues, where there's like at the end of the game, if your journeyman survives, you roll a d6 and on a 1 or 2 he joins the team
For free.
Yeah.
And loses loan. Actually, that's quite a cool way.
Yeah, because then you could actually save up to buy the inevitable positionals that have died some gloriously soggy death.
Yeah, that's the downside. Is your loss is going to be a lot, and even with the cash rules. The cash rules in BB 2020 are fantastic, but they're fantastic for 11s where you score between you normally 3 touchdowns a game. So there's that extra cash floating around. In this game, because it's 6 turns on a full 11s pitch with basically only 3 guys in the backfield to pick up the ball, you're not going to be scoring. You're not going to have a 3-2 gutter bowl game if you're doing it properly. So I don't think you're going to get the extra cash from winning. So I think you might have to adjust your expectations, but all it's going to get you to do is play a little bit more thematically. And I think, 11s is just superb, right? It's just excellent. No matter whether you're doing tournament rules or league rules, it's just brilliant. Dungeon Bowl, I agree with you, Trips. I think it's a great tournament game.
It's a great tournament game, yeah.
Sevens is a brilliant casual game that also plays really well as a good tournament, a good competitive format. And then you've got this, which I think this is like, for those of you out there that like Necromunda, that like Mordheim, I think a game of this is going to be a really lovely place for you. But I think for your standard 11s player, this is just very, very, very different and is going to give you a much different vibe. But if you want to role play the start of a player's career, a tavern versus tavern thing, have a brawl, have a club evening, because the game is a bit longer than sevens. You can get 2 games of this in a night. So actually, if you've got 4 people, you just have a couple of games. If you just and have like a little tavern off at the beginning or end of the league, and just give a little extra reward, like the winner of the tavern off gets a keg for this season, like something that's marginal, thematic, and actually it's okay. I think would be a really cool way to tie this in without being overrun. But I don't think I'd want to play this instead of sevens, and I don't think I'd want to play this instead of 11s. But I would happily play a Gutter Bowl event with resurrection format, and I'd happily play a Gutter Bowl evening that's warming up for a league. But it's so different, which is good and bad at the same time.
Yeah, it is a lovely game to play. It's got it thematically. Everything in that little spike is wonderful. It just sings that it's all been put together really well. The kickoff table themes, the inducement changes themes work really well.
The weather events, the potions, the inducements. It's its own little world. And this is going to lead me on to my next big question for your Trips. We've got a sewer, we've got a street, we've got a market stall. Where else could we go with this?
Feels like there could be like a sort of swampy thing with bridges would be great.
That would be so cool.
Or catacombs with lava, sort of dungeon version of it. That would be quite good.
I've seen some people mention dwarven halls.
Oh yeah.
With like pillars instead of the sewer vats. I mean, that's something I really hope they return to this in one way or another, because they've got the flexibility here. So the standard layout for both pitches is exactly the same. The placement of terrain, the placement of the barricades is exactly the same. There's no reason they couldn't do a dwarf hall with pillars all over the shop instead of the sewer things in slightly different places. And I would really love them to do Sewer Bowl 2 with, I don't know, an Amazonian temple on one side and flipping, a swamp with bridges on the other side would just be so cool. And the design space for this is so wide open that it's just begging for it.
Do you think we'll get a version 2 of this next year? Because we never thought we'd get a second Dungeon Bowl.
And we did get Deathmatch.
We definitely did, yeah.
I truly hope so, because I mean, as far as expansions go for Blood Bowl, This is way down there in the list of things you'll need. But because of that, it's such a great little supplement that is just a different way to play, and it just lands exactly well. You know, we looked at the retro morning cartoon Robo Skaven Kickstarter earlier.
Yeah.
That chose a thing it was going to do and just delivered that so well. This did exactly the same, and I definitely would love them to do another version, because there's so many places to go with it. It's got to be a pretty low overhead. It's just, it's just a pitch and a book, which I say just a pitch and a book, but they don't have to worry about tooling for models. And I think it's so accessible. I hope we see another one. I mean, what I do I think we'll see one? Probably not.
What I'd love to see is another one with a different pitches, but a mixed team variant of it. I think if that came out, I think, well, firstly we'd be we'd be straight into it and going down the full old crazy line. But it feels like, as that kind of pub version of Blood Bowl, it would work for that kind of thematic feel of going, this shouldn't work, and it probably won't, but let's give it a go anyway.
I think the easiest way for them to do it without actually having to worry about balance or making new models would be to just copy Ben's Hangover Bowl from year before last, which is you choose a sprue of Wood Elves. You choose a sprue of one team and a sprue of another. You can randomize it. You can draft them however you want to do it, but you get to use the contents of that sprue, and if it's a tier 3 sprue, you get to induce whatever. I mean, that obviously that's the easier way to do it from a Games Workshop point of view, but what they probably should do is pick 2 teams from a D66 roster, because D66s, as we've proven from 1995's Necromunda, is the best way to roll a dice, and just be like, you get 0 to 1 of every positional on this roster, and 0 to 5 positionals overall. So you roll up, okay, I get Chaos Dwarves. You roll again, okay, I get Undead. Sweet. I can have 1 of each of the dudes, and I get to pick my 5, and that's my pub. My pub is just the Dead Dwarf Inn, and you're good to roll. And it's kind of like, that would be a really easy way of doing it that would just allow some fun, allow some creativity. That's it. That's all you need to do. I mean, we did Hangover Bowl, we do mixed rules in Bonehead Bowl, and it's just unbound, brilliant way of playing a different.
It's just beautiful, isn't it? Yeah.
We'll have to. So we got the live stream for the draft coming up on August the 5th. Then we'll have Bonehead Bowl. I don't know if we'll stream it on November the 4th, but we if we don't get a new team release in that part, we should live stream a Bonehead Bowl roster or something, a Bonehead Bowl match. Maybe not one Bonehead Bowl, just mixed team roster. Build.
Yeah. We could. We'll probably have a couple of TO teams, so we could always bring them on and see how much craziness you can get onto a pitch, and how it can go not as you plan.
So, I mean, overall, Trips, would you consider Gutter Bowl a success and worth doing?
Absolutely, I would. Definitely, if you're an experienced Blood Bowl player and you want to play Blood Bowl in a different way, Gutter Bowl is for you. If you are a new Blood Bowl player, do not play Gutter Bowl to start off with.
Go play sevens.
Go play sevens. Get good at sevens, and then probably go 11s, then go Gutter Bowl. Because I think if you started at this, and there is the worry with Gutter Bowl that you could, before you have started your first turn, go, I am not playing with 7, I am playing with 3. How did that happen?
I think if you're a bash coach, this is awesome for you. It is just very different. It is, what I would say is it's quite dry, whereas I think sevens is is very kind of loose and liquid on the pitch, and it's all kind of free flowing, and it's all about movement and positioning. This is just, I'm rolling armor, and I'm here to roll armor for an hour, and some of the armor is going to be good, and some of the armor is going to be bad, and we're going to tell a story of death. And actually, that is a wicked way to play it, and it's definitely worth a go. And some of the rosters, I was talking to Greenskin Phil, who, by the way, is going to play some Mantic Armada with us in a couple of weeks' time.
Excellent.
And he was like, "Is there an Orcs? Is there a Greenskin fleet?" And I was like, "Yes, there is."
Is there a green navy?
Yes, yes, we've got you. He was like, "Yeah, man, goblins look fun in this," and I've been brewing up the rosters. Goblins, 2 trolls, chainsaw, bomber, hooligan for the stompy dirty player, and 6 goblins and a reroll is 750-ish. So you got 11 dudes, chainsaw, bomb, 2 trolls to put on the line and murder stuff, and an hooligan who can spend the entire game fouling with dirty player +1 and never ever get sent off. This might be the goblin format.
It does feel like the format for goblin coaches who go, well, it's all against me in every other format, other than this one where everything I've got, I get to use again.
It actually made me excited to like consider, because Milton was like, could this be our summer format? Because the way we want to do our tournaments as we go forward is Beachhead in February, we've got 11s, then a 7s, then Dungeon Bowl in May, where you've got Dungeon Bowl for a day. Then we normally have a summer tournament. We're skipping it this year because of the World Cup, but actually with the house move and the baby is probably a good thing. And then we mop up with mixed teams and Bonehead Bowl at the end of the year. I suppose we also sometimes have an 11s and 7s in October as well. But kind of that summer bit, it kind of ebbs and flows, and it's kind of just like another 11s tournament. Milton's like, this could be our summer tournament format. And after initially playing it, I was like, I don't know if this is going to be it. But actually, I like the idea of having a roster format for this, because the teams play differently, and this could be a place where goblins can compete real well.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe this could be a really good tournament thing, and it might be a really fun way to play a different subset. It's just whether or not that would be as good as a 7s tournament, and that's a tough choice.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult one, and I mean the advantage of it is because it's a single team and detail. It's a low hobby bar to do.
Yeah, it's just half your team that you've already got.
Yeah,
You're going to need some spare linemen, but it's half your team you've already got. Interesting. We'll have to talk about that one and see whether or not this could be the format that we're missing. But I was not expecting this release. Obviously, I would have preferred a team, but this is great. This is a great extra thing to play. It's a cool addition. It's a great just other way. And there's a couple of things I would have liked to see. More team rules. I'd like to see more pitches, but actually that's not because it's broken. That's just because what they landed was great, that I want more. And that's perfect. Like, nothing in the book is bad. Every kickoff table, every weather table, every potion table is just bang on. The fluff is bang on. The pitch layouts are superbly well designed. It looks really basic, but it's perfect. The distance between the zones is exactly right. The size of the terrain is exactly right. And you are left feeling rushed for time and under threat of the ground. This is a really stressful way to play Blood Bowl.
Well, and I think if we look at our game that we played, we proved that a Skaven team aren't necessarily fast enough. A Black Orc team aren't necessarily hard enough.
Yeah.
But a Black Orc team pretending to be Skaven might work.
It was wicked. And it does give you... Every version of Blood Bowl gives you a different feeling. 11s just gives you all the feelings, right? 7s gives you a feeling of light ease, and essentially kind of like, oh, maybe I'll combo off and the 4 things I need to happen will work out and it'll be really exciting.
Yeah.
And then next turn we rack up again and it goes differently. And you've got that. That's why I love sevens, is because it's just eclectic. Dungeon Bowl is just like, you know, the meme of the woman with like Pythagoras theorem and stuff. That's
Yes.
Dungeon Bowl. You're like, right, there's a corner here, and I don't know where it is, but there's a way for me to run this guy across the pitch and win the game, and it's really cool. It gives you that. This makes you feel like you are underground, and everybody is trying to hurt you, and also there are balls. There is a ball to touch down, and it gives you that compressed. It's a vibe, and it's not a good one, and I think it's perfect.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be very difficult not to have a lot of fun playing it, because even just being able to go, right, I now know that I can probably push your player into a sewer pit, and he might pop out anywhere around it. You're like, well, that sounds too fun not to do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to surf it. I also massively love how great big guys are in this format.
Yes.
I love that. There's a line of scrimmage. They're gonna get to punch dudes. They're heavy, so they're hard to beat. They're good armor, so they've got reasonable survivability, and they've got Mighty Blow, which means they're Mighty Blow +2, which is just filth. So the Renegades roster,
I was going to say that Renegades is 2 big guys is a definite. 3 is
3.
possible.
Do
and
it.
anyone who's got a big guy on their roster, you're not quite as hamstrung with the roster build as you are with sevens. When you're like, if you put the big guy on, that it's a big guy alignment.
I think our next match when we play, we're going to have to play some more Sewer Bowl. Ogres with 5 ogres, because you can, and you should. That's 700. And then you have 3 Noblars. Right?
Just so you can kick the Noblar into the barricade.
Versus goblins with the 2 troll, chainsaw, dirty player, bomber, goblin army. I think that is just...
Yeah. Who needs a
murder? Chainsaw, I just think it's absolute carnage. I just think there's so many fun rosters. I think this format is going to bring out those fun teams, and I think they've done a really good job of taking something that it looks pretty innocuous. It's like, oh, it's just a slightly different pitch and a slightly different set of rules. That's like saying that cake is a bit lackluster because it's just eggs, flour, and a couple of other bits. No, it's baked. It's baked well. And there's some cherries here, and I look forward to the sequel. I really hope they do a sequel, but they sold out, right? So that's a good sign. I really just want to make
nothing to do with
pitch.
the fact that everyone was like, "Oh, I've got no Blood Bowl. I need to buy something."
Yeah, us and the Adeptus Titanicus lot, I think, are very much the ones who are that, like the fan bases that are like, "I'll buy it." Yeah. What is it? Don't know. I'm ready yet. I'll buy it. Although Epic is looking pretty cool. Yeah, but I think that kind of summarizes it. It's 100% worth the play. And it is 100% different than you expect, and that's fresh and frightening. And I think they've done a really good job with it. So yeah, it gets a massive passing grade for me, and I think that's generally the vibe kicking around as well.
I'd very much agree with that. I really enjoyed the game. I would definitely play another one, and I do like the fact that there is its own unique roster building fun to have within it. And because it's a fun game, there isn't going to be a wrong roster for it. And there will definitely be some kind of meta that emerges, but you'd have to play quite a lot more games to get to that stage.
No one's playing quite a lot. There's going to be a couple of like deep leagues that are like, we love Gutter Bowl, that's all we play. And that's just those people used to play more time, and this is as close as they can get to it. And I think it's a brilliant hybrid. If you like more time and you like Blood Bowl, the Gutter Bowl is you are going to have a wonderful time being hurt by the game. Right, Trips, that's all I've got, mate. Anything else from you today?
Nothing from me.
All right, well, we're going to wrap up. And then at the moment, we're planning our next episode to be a preview of I'm going to call it the Draft Bowl, which will be our dual live stream on the 5th of August. We'll be streaming 2 games at the same time. We got our Sevens games lined up at Entoyment. We'll be streaming 1 game on this channel and 1 game on the Bonehead Podcast channel 2 extra time. So if you don't like the teams that are playing on one channel, you can flick to the other, which is ultimately the Blood Bowl dream. I've got 2 channels to choose from for live Blood Bowl right now. That is the goal. That is the goal, right? That's the long-term goal.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, we will have a lot of fun talking through the madness of turning those draft cards into a team. And then looking around the other teams and going,
we got to choose skills as well, haven't we?
We have to choose skills, and yeah, that's going to be really, really important there because.
Well, this goblin's got 2 heads, so I feel like it has to be done. But anyway, that is going to be all for us. Trips, thank you so much for jumping on and talking some Blood Bowl tonight. I appreciate it. Even if you are just trying to escape your underwater elements.
The house disasters.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, mate. And everybody out there, thank you very much for watching. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Or come join us on YouTube Members or in Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to some content, some loot, early access to basically everything we do, as well as regular competitions. Or you can pick up some Bonehead Podcast loot either on our website at boneheadpodcast.com. We've got the Dungeon Bowl things, we've got tokens and stuff like that, or on our Spreadshirt site as well. Everything you do just helps us make more content and hopefully do it of better quality. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking.